so we invited Mark to tell us, you know, what is the state of the city right now? What is the city doing, and how can we help as residents to promote the city and keep it alive until this is all over? So with that, our mayor has been a long-term mayor. He grew up in the city of Orange. He knows the city. He loves the city. And if anybody wants to see the city rebound, it is Mark Murphy. So with that, let's introduce Mayor Mark Murphy.
Well, thanks very much, Al. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. You know, it's a time that I don't think any of us would have ever guessed we would be in. It's a time that, you know, 8 weeks ago, things were pretty normal. Economics were good. People were optimistic. And it was more a matter of worrying about spring training baseball and what we were going to do for summer vacation than it was about our health, our welfare, and health being both physical and economic health. And certainly March 16th is a day that I'll always remember. That's the day that we ratified the resolution of local emergency. Was double ones and triple twos, 11222. And that basically is declaring a local emergency in response to the COVID virus. Out of that opens an emergency operating center, just deployment strategies for everything from safety to how we operate at City Hall, the modified work plans that were all under facilities close, hotlines for residents, updates, and then trying to get our arms around what to do to keep people safe, number one, and what to do on how to work our way through this to get back to a more normalized state. I don't think we'll ever be back where we were before. I think there's some permanent impacts here that we've seen and will continue. But by the same token, I think, well, honestly, we may be stronger and better off once it's done from an overall standpoint. But I don't want to kid anybody. It's not lost on me or anyone else at the city how challenging these times are for people, for jobs, for businesses, and the rest. And so from my perspective, at this point, I just want to see the best way out and the most expeditious way out to get people back to work, get people back to their jobs, and back to being more optimistic about their daily routines and what they can do safely and happily. And I didn't even bring up the whole idea of all the people. There must be thousands of people in the city of Orange who never thought they were going to be teachers, but have taken on the role of teacher, daily teacher, along with everything else, because the kids are all home from school. And so, you know, all those things add up to be a very challenging situation. But, you know, like usual in Orange, people rally, people do great things, and people make sure to look out after their neighbors. I mean, there's a sense of community in Orange. I'm biased. I'll be the first to admit it. I was born and raised here. But the things I see people doing just unnoticed by lots of people in terms of just looking out for a neighbor, just picking up an extra bag of groceries, just nodding and smiling and saying hi, you know, from an appropriate distance, of course, you know, are things that make the difference in these sorts of times. So, you know, I would say that so far, 98.99% of folks are doing their best to try and weather this challenge. And, you know, there are a few folks that decide they have a better idea or a better way, but that's okay. We'll take the input and go from there. I understand that we're going to assemble some questions along the way, but I'll touch on a few more things, and then happy to you know, put any questions together, etc. You know, first and foremost, if everybody would take away one thing today, the one thing I would ask is that when you're out and about doing essential things, i.e. getting groceries, you know, picking up pharmaceutical medications and prescriptions and doing the things that you need to do, if you see somebody that's working an essential service, just saying thank you to the person that helps bag your groceries, or the pharmacist, or the doctor that sees you, or any of the first line responders. You don't have to run over to them. Certainly maintain distance and do the safe things, but just a head nod if you're wearing a mask, a thumbs up, whatever. Those little things can make a light years of difference over time. Because remember, we're 6 weeks in, and I wish I could predict when we will be totally done or when we'll transition out. I'm optimistic that it's sooner rather than later, but I can't give you a date today. As soon as I can, I promise I will. But we're continue to follow the healthcare agency in Orange County for their daily updates, as well as the state. The state executive order overrides and requires certain levels of coordination, cooperation. And so we're working directly with all those folks, along with the county, to handle this transition back. I do want to reinforce three things. Quite people ask me the when question, and I think I just kind of answered that as best I can. One question that comes up often is, there's a cutback in services at the city. What does that translate to? And I'd rather answer what it does not translate to. And that is, our safety services are at full capacity and operating 7 by 24 by 365, just like always. And as well, we've maintained skeleton crew to administer necessary items. If you have a building permit, for instance, that needs to be done with an appointment, we can get that done. If inspections are still being done as well from a business standpoint. So we're trying our best to make certain that things that are time critical are done that way as well. I do have what I think is good news, and that is, based on being safe and based on being blessed, quite candidly, we have not had a COVID-19 report positive of any of our first line people, and actually anybody in the city family at this point that I'm aware of. And that is very fortunate as well, given the circumstances and given the number of calls. Couple other things too, hospitals. It was fascinating to me in talking to the CEO over at St. Joseph's Hospital, leadership at Chalk, and some discussions at UCI, that the word that they want to get out, one word, is that their emergency services are available. There are beds available. And so please, if you need their services, do not wait. I've been aware of unfortunate circumstances where people suffered dramatically and waited much longer for fear that somehow they would be exposed to the virus by going to an emergency room. And I'm here to assure you and encourage you, please don't wait if you need medical care. Certainly, if it's an optional thing and you've been putting it off, et cetera, then maybe yes, put it off a little while longer. But if it's some sort of essential, medical care, and don't discount things like whether it be chest pains or shortness of breath or any of those primary things to life, if you will. The emergency rooms are only about half full, and they have also done things to isolate out anyone dealing with flu viruses and such from that end. Obviously, if you have a common cold or things you would have taken care of otherwise, that's fine. But the message I got from our medical professionals is, please don't wait. If you need our help, please come in, please call, and we're here to help you, and we have the facilities to help you. So I did want to put that out there as well. Finally, I'll just say thank you to everyone that is complying with these tough times and these challenging times, whether it be our businesses that are trying to figure out different ways to keep the lights on and stay open. The chamber has been great about working with the Small Business Association and coordinating with the city around what sorts of help there are in terms of forgivable loans, the paycheck support, et cetera. But as well, I see so many folks that are being creative on what they're offering and how they're offering it. And you know, I don't have to look too far to see a business. In fact, I think I just have to walk around the corner to see businesses that are doing things differently to maintain themselves during this tough time. Not certainly at pre-COVID levels, but to get through this, to come back. And you know, we're all going to continue to work together to make that happen. And you know, again, say thanks to one of those first line responders or essential services people. Just say thank you. I mean, that's the best we can do right now. I am, as I mentioned, optimistic that hopefully, I think we're closer to the end of what I'll call the extreme conditions than we were. We're starting to see some encouraging results on the medical front, although I'm not a medical professional, so it's just me sort of looking at the numbers. But I would say as well, you know, remain vigilant. Don't relax things until you know, the request is to do so. But in the meantime, you know, stay close, tell people you care about them, and tell people thank you for the extra work that's being done. And with that, rather than me talking on for hours about different specific things, et cetera, I do have to say one other group as well that we got to thank from a partnership standpoint and continues to be a great partner, and that's Chapman University. They have put up available resources and rooms for our first responders should they need to be isolated. Happily, we haven't had that situation to deal with, but there are resources and rooms, et cetera, as well. They continue to provide space for the farmers market on Saturdays, for instance, and just a whole host of other things along the way, because education, both for OUSD and Chapman University and Rancho Santiago Community College and the rest, certainly if you talk about things that are impacted right there with the business community, it's how do you deliver education and quality education given the times. So I imagine there's a lot of adults out there that are a lot better at 4th and 5th grade math than they ever thought they would be given this circumstance and beyond. And you know, again, thanks to all those folks and the educators that are, many of whom are learning how to use technology like Zoom, you know, for the first time in their lives, right? I mean, if you'd have done a test last December and asked people what Zoom is, I think you would have gotten a whole host of answers, versus now the numbers are incredible in terms of how many of these sorts of meetings are out there. So those are some of the lasting impacts. And again, I appreciate the Chamber for putting this on, and appreciate the Chamber for what they do each and every day for our business community in the city of Orange.
Well, Mark, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mark. We do appreciate what you do for us, because since this COVID-19 has come around, you've done 2 videos that I know of. One helping the people that are affected by the different programs, and we try to highlight those to the businesses, the local businesses, and how to get relief from the federal government. And also, last Friday we put on a video of you supporting the local merchants and going to restaurants and tried to make it a little fun, and I think it was, and the restaurants really appreciated you going there, and we called it drive up, take up, and save. Drive up, take out, and save.
Drive in, pick up, and save. Yeah.
And what happens is anybody that goes on the Chamber website and get a coupon, and these merchants have agreed to discount their takeout by 20%. So they go to the Chamber website, they print out a coupon, they go to one of the participating restaurants. For example, we did the Pie Hole, we did Cyrano's, we did Francoli's, Haven Gastro Pub, and Jalapenos. If you go there with
don't leave out Zito's too.
Zito's, there you go. We get 20%. They get 20% off, and it helps the restaurant and it helps the consumer. And that was a Chamber program that Mark stepped up and did for us. So, Mark, thank you for being a partner with the Chamber. Mark realizes how important the Chamber is, and we realize how important it is to work with the city and to help everybody in the city. So, thank you for that, Mark.
Appreciate that. One thing too, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that all of my colleagues on the council have been out, whether it is documenting where they're picking up a meal or where they're shopping, We have a small business owner as one of the council people, and all four of us are connected locally all the way back to our high school educations and further. So all of the city council has a passion for Orange and long roots in Orange, and everybody's been active during these times, unprecedented times, right? And trying to help where they can to encourage business and to keep people positive and moving forward. So whether it's Mayor Pro Tem Mike Alvarez, Councilman Chip Monaco, Councilwoman Kim Nichols, who you mentioned Cyrano's earlier, that's her particular business, so along with a great background and professional education in nursing. So her medical understanding is really helpful during these times as well. All four of them, or all three of them, along with me, continue to contribute every day to try and make the best of a very, very difficult situation for everyone involved here in Orange.
You mentioned
Mayor,
about.
there's actually a question for you. Is there any plan for the city of Orange to open its own testing center?
The city isn't a health agency, so no, there wouldn't be the city of Orange opening one, but the local medical professionals are putting testing together. I understand UCI, for instance, has announced several locations, and there will be additional locations that will continue. I even picked up in the news, and I don't know that it's local in Orange, but both of these particular drugstores are well represented in Orange, but two of the drugstore chains are talking about having tests available at local, either through a drive up or actually a purchase, a self-administered testing as well. Keep in mind that there are multiple kinds of tests, and the differences in those tests make a big difference in terms of determining whether or not only whether or not you've had the virus, but whether or not you're a potential for carrying it and giving it to someone else, God forbid, or even what it all means in terms of there's antigen tests, there's antibody tests, there's multiple tests, and that's been part of the challenge in the medical community is one, getting the number of tests administered that's necessary to have some statistically significant data, but two, making sure that people understand what the test is and what they aren't. So stay tuned, but there will be a lot more availability testing wise and local to us as well.
Perfect. I see there's a question that came through on Facebook Live. It says, I'm curious to know what, if any, kind of opportunity you as a local mayor get to have to speak with our governor and how you feel our city's needs and concerns are being addressed.
We have a whole group of mayors because there's hundreds of cities in the state, and the vast majority of us are medium and smaller sized cities versus the large cities. Even Anaheim and Santa Ana, our largest cities, are below 500,000 people, and that's typically the slice or the division line in things. So when budgets and monies are coming out, oftentimes they're directed to counties and cities over 500,000 people. Our county, and especially Supervisor Don Wagner, has been very cooperative and supportive of making sure that the city of Orange gets its fair share, so to speak, along with our state legislators. But the mayors, there's a couple of associations of mayors that we have communicated directly with the mayor's office and his staff, and that, along with the county's efforts, we've coordinated to ensure that there are additional resources headed our way. There are bills for additional funding right now that are currently working their way through the system, and we're in communication there, both on the state and the federal level, for that matter.
Berkenda, do you have any other questions for Mark?
Yes, I do. How can we best support our nonprofit community in Orange at this time? I feel like they're getting a large hit here. Is there anything that you suggest that we do for them?
Well, I think when you see the opportunities out there, I mean, certainly the Community Foundation of Orange and Orange Homegrown just did a fundraiser with orange signs that you can put out in your yard and put a message out in support of things, etc. There are a number of nonprofits that have activities ongoing that are looking for both volunteer assistance as well as financial assistance per se. In our own Citizen of the Year, Dean Kim has organized his own facility to provide local chefs and local bakers and artisans to provide food products during a time when, let's face it, things can be challenging to find certain food products and items. And he's opened the front of his bakery on North LaSalle to provide those things and he's providing the money to nonprofits to support nonprofits as well. So there's a whole host of ways to do it. And, I would reach out if you have a specific nonprofit that you feel close to. I would reach out and ask them how to help. And if you don't, we can help you find, something in a related area that's a particular passion of yours, whether it be kids, whether it be seniors, whether it be the community at large, whether it be food-based. Waste Not OC is another great activity locally, but I could go on and on. If I start naming people, I'm going to leave a whole bunch out. And I don't want to do that either, because Orange is very fortunate to have such a robust nonprofit and church-based communities as well.
You're correct. And there's so many great organizations here. Is the city offering any grant programs or other incentive to small businesses to help during this time?
The city is helping coordinate with the state and federal programs that are available for small businesses and small business loans. As I mentioned earlier, the chamber has been instrumental here, working with our economic development people to get small businesses in front of those loans or opportunities, and we're happy to do so. So much of the funding that we used to use for business incentive was pulled back through the state and by the state. And so we're relying on them now to return the favors as well as it relates to business incentives, those sorts of things. But don't be shy if there is a business in Orange that wants to contact the city or contact the chamber. We have people that will assist in making certain that every opportunity is presented to pursue.
Okay, perfect. One question, and this is really jumping ahead, hopefully not too far in our future. Are we planning anything, any community event for when we reopen?
Well, I mean, there are natural events that we typically have in Orange that certainly will be a celebratory event, assuming they are allowed to occur. I mean, we just got the bad news at the county level about the Orange County Fair being canceled for this particular year. We're holding out hope that perhaps, whether it be, something during the summer or not, I just can't predict as of yet, but I will make the promise right here that the first public event back will be a celebration of the city of Orange, its residents, for doing an extraordinary job, and the ability to get back together, because frankly, Orange as a community celebrates both its history and its community in these events. And frankly, I, for one, miss them, and I'm pretty sure most everybody out there does as well. So yeah, I would love to say, yeah, and it's on this date, but back again to, I don't have the crystal ball as of yet. And any date I picked right now would certainly just be a guess. And I don't want to do that and set false expectations, but I will promise that there will be a celebratory event, I guarantee you, as we are presented the opportunity to do so.
Awesome. Your promise is all we need. For sure. I don't have any more questions that I can see here on our chat or on Facebook Live. Let's see. Oh, actually, I do have one. Sorry, one more just came in. What are your thoughts on the protest in the plaza yesterday?
Everybody has the right to have a viewpoint, and there's this whole thing called freedom of speech that we have fought for and continue to fight for over the years. I think it's disappointing when folks don't follow the requests and the guidelines related to safety and staying 6 foot apart and doing those things. But you know, at the end of the day, the city's responsibility and our safety services responsibility, and frankly, the city council's responsibility is the safety of everyone. And Orange yesterday was as safe as it was any other day. A 7x24, just like always. We got extraordinary safety services and the rest. You know, I got email from all points of view, and even folks that wanted to make sure that I knew a few days ahead, because somehow or another that was going to change something along the way. And you know, I appreciate all that and the rest, but you know, as long as it's done in an orderly manner, and I'm sure there are differences of opinion on that as well. You know, I'm one to say, you know, freedom of speech is an incredibly important right that we're not going to lose during COVID virus or any other time. That being said, I again implore people just to stay safe, stay at home when you can, wear masks if you're out, and you can. These are recommendations, right? Everybody you know, understands that. But I just think, you know, the most courteous thing you can do is do everything you can, not only to protect yourself, but to protect your the person you're passing on the street as well. I mean, something as simple, if you're out exercising, for instance. I heard this last week too, and I'll share it along the way. If you're out exercising, you know, keep a 6 foot distance from somebody that maybe is walking their dog along the driveway. It can be something as simple as that. And I get it. You're in the zone, you're running, you're riding a bicycle, you're doing whatever you're doing, and you're trying to keep your heart rate up, and that's all well and good. But there's no reason, especially in these days, there's no real reason to be closer than 6 feet. And so why wouldn't you just do it? Even if you think it's all hogwash and you think COVID, you know, it's all a big scam, so to speak, or it's not nearly as bad as everybody's made it out to be. I mean, frankly, I'm happy that it hasn't been as bad in Orange County as was once feared. And I think a lot of it has to do with people that are doing everything they can. But I also would just say, hey, look, it's not that hard. If you want to get exercise and be out and do that, that's great. But just, you know, keep 6 feet. You can wave, you can smile, you can thumbs up. You know, you can do all those things, but that'll allow everyone else as well to feel comfortable being out there. And it's sort of a balancing act right now, right? So anyway, those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Is the city looking at putting together a business task force to help reopen the city?
Potentially, we'll see what happens. I honestly think with the Chamber of Commerce in place, and you know, the city also continues to speak to a number of the business leaders. I mean, we started that a couple of days after the emergency declaration was put into place, and I continue to do so, whether it be large health, large business, et cetera, as well as small business. But you know, it certainly could make some sense, especially when we have a sense of when things are going to come back on that end. Right now, I'd call it more triage. You know, sorry to use that phrase, because from a health professional standpoint, it's certainly a different word than it is from an economics. But you know, I'm happy to reach out, as I mentioned earlier, if there's businesses that want to talk specifically about you know, things to consider and the rest. Happy to do that. As we get a little more sense of when there may be some transitional change, and I think we all recognize that this isn't going to be a light switch sort of circumstance where we say, hey, Saturday, if it's 75 degrees, everybody, you know, back like you were in January, right? It's going to phase in, and there'll be, you know, I've heard different philosophies on how long the social distancing piece of it. And by the way, that's an oxymoron. There's nothing social about staying 6 feet apart from your friends and family. But by the same token, it appears to have really had an impact on what's going on here over in terms of the spread of the virus. But you know, some of those things could go on for weeks or longer based on different philosophies I've heard. So we continue to communicate the importance of getting the economic engines back as soon as possible from a business standpoint and get people. I mean, I don't know anybody other than maybe somebody that really wanted to take some time off that's happy right now just hanging out at the house, right? So no matter how grand and nice your house is, after a little while, the walls start to get a little close. So I do want to figure out what things, rather than keep saying, no, you can't, let's figure out the things that we say, yes, you can, and start to work back down that path. But they have to be within reason, and it can't be just because, gosh, we're tired of being locked up and we can't do it. There's this common sense balance between the economic impacts and the medical impacts. And I think lots of people are trying to find that balance so we can start on the road back to whatever the new normal is. It certainly will be different than before, but I certainly look forward to having the ability to go and do, and especially to meet and celebrate, as was talked about earlier, in terms of when this is all over, from a health standpoint, to do it. Unfortunately, I mean, you know, the medical part of it is going to take some time, but the economics certainly aren't going to change overnight either, based on what I'm seeing and hearing from different people so far, you know, from that end of things. So, you know, we'll continue to communicate and continue to, you know, work these issues, not only as they present themselves, but as we see a bit of calendar, then we can start to do some things related to some of the planning and the rest for coming back, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say that's one of the hardest things for me is just really staying away from people. It's like, oh, you want to, you know, go up, shake people's hands. It's so normal. And they're like, okay, new normal is not doing that. So I can appreciate, you know, everyone wanting to get outside, you know,
Yeah, I mean, you think about it.
interact.
I mean, I'm a sports fan, and just this is, you know, just one small phase of things. But think about the number of people that enjoy going to sporting events. The Angels locally, the Lakers, obviously, both teams that I've grown up, you know, supporting and watching. But that just goes over and over again, every other area and the rest. And I'm not sure when gatherings like that are going to be okay and done. But even on top of that, you know, how many people will immediately flock back to large gatherings? That's the other, you know, kind of just a question right now. We don't know, but I'd like to get to the point where we can figure that out by saying, yeah, we can do some of those things. And it's just a matter of making sure it's done safely and not prematurely, so that we go into this kind of second wave pandemic, which would be like the knockout punch to a lot of businesses in a lot of areas.
Exactly. One more question. I believe there was a phone somewhere, but how is the city's budget
It's probably
impact?
for you, but it's probably for you, by the way. It's not for me.
How has the city's budget been impacted by the COVID-19, basically? So I'm guessing sales tax is obviously down. So what's the impact that's happening?
Yeah, I mean, you've got three primary sources of money for a city, right? And the three primary sources are sales tax, property tax, and TOT, i.e. hotel tax, visitors tax, etc. For Orange, sales tax is the number one item, the largest of those three, property tax being number two, and TOT or hotel bed tax being number three. You know, we're just starting into our budgeting cycle again. We were started, and frankly, we're balanced and probably pretty close to having something we could sign and start for July 1 start, which is the governmental new year, if you will. But we had to stop, take account of things, and take some best guesses. And right now, probably in the most, I'll kind of go the middle of the road. I won't say the absolute worst thing that could be or the best it could be, but our guess is it's anywhere from $8 to $12 million in FY20. That's between now and the end of June. That's not next year. And then we're doing forecasting, kind of best, worst case scenarios, and you know, a best estimate of things And the ranges could be in the, you know, $10 to $30 million category. Keep in mind, this is on a budget of $120+ million, $125 million. So you can do the math. I'm sure, you know, everybody that's been teaching math the last few days can do it too, in terms of what that translates into percentages and how we do that on the basis of a city. Remember, we haven't upped sales tax in the city like many of our local communities have to try and cover some of that. We don't do utility taxes. We don't do a lot of those things to try and stay business friendly and residentially friendly on those sorts of things. So, you know, and we won't do that here. At least I'll speak on behalf of the council on that one, because I know all three of my colleagues well enough to know that that's not the answer that they're going to look to, and we're going to figure out ways to manage around it. We're also, you know, looking for reports as well and expertise as well. We use several of the academic forecasts from the local universities, including our own Chapman University, to do some of the economic forecasting and such. And they're frankly just sort of revising and doing things along the way. But it's going to hurt. It's going to be challenging. It's, you know, we're going to look at all means we have in order to deliver the essential services and deliver the services of the city, while staying within the confines of our budgets and finances. So it's something that's going to take cooperation and the rest, and something we certainly weren't planning on, because frankly, our sales tax has been growing at a really great rate over the last number of years, and property tax continues to stay stable. Folks, you know, if there's any good news in all this, myopically from the city's perspective, that is, we don't have a high reliance on TOT tax in comparison. I mean, our sales tax number is probably 9 or 10 times what our hotel tax number would be. Imagine that same challenge or discussion if we were referring to, you know, our neighbor to the north, Anaheim, for instance, or you know, that end of things. We're also fortunate that our sales tax generation is pretty broad based and pretty resilient as well. So you know, but it's a big number no matter how you slice it, and we're going to have to sharpen the pencils and continue to work on it on a you know, through this time, because there is, at least right now, there is a deadline to get that done by the 1st of July so that we can operate. And I doubt that will change. It's not like our IRS bill that fortunately was put off 3 months as a part of this challenge.
Well, thank you for that. One of the things I wanted to thank you for as well is what we postponed our State of the City, which I don't know when, if ever, that's happened in our lifetimes here, but
It hasn't.
I didn't think so. We wanted to thank you for your commitment to going ahead and putting that on once we are able to reopen, number one. And then also, of course, thank you and all of the council and all of our local law enforcement, public agencies, and everyone for all that you guys are doing for the city. We really appreciate everything you're doing. Al, do you have any final questions? I know I don't see any more here in our chat or on Facebook, but if you have anything else.
Well, I'd just like to thank Mark again, and anything that we could do to tell the public the status of our COVID-19, Mark, anything that you wanted to get out to the general public, we'd love to go through the website and broadcast it. Any new developments, anything that we should be doing differently. You know, we look to the city for leadership, and you guys provide that to us, and we do appreciate you helping the business community and trying to get through this. So thank you again for that. And any way the chamber can help the city or the residents, you let us know.
No, we definitely will, and appreciate what the chamber does each and every day for the business community as well. I mean, I'll just part with this, and that is, I realize that we are in times, and everybody realizes we are in times that we haven't ever seen before. And the pain that's involved, from whether it be economics, whether it be just being lonely from being stuck behind four walls, and all the things that go along with that. And it's serious. We want to transition away and start to move back to the new normal as soon as we can. And we'll do it when the health professionals and the economic professionals, we can get everybody together and make a common sense approach on moving back. But right now, I would just ask, it's easy to get impatient and say, gosh, the weather's nice outside, so let's go do this or that. Just keep the distancing, keep doing the things you're doing. And I'm optimistic that we're closer to the end than the beginning on this thing. And I'm also optimistic that with the strength that's in the community of Orange, we're going to come back better and stronger when this is all done. So thanks very much. And thanks to everybody for what they do.
And
Stay healthy and stay safe.
And we want to assure you, Mark, that the chamber's with you every step of the way. In any way we can help you or anything you can see that we can do to help, let us know, because we're there for you and for the people. So thank you very much. Thank you for giving your Tuesday morning to Eggs and Issues. And I hope everybody got something out of this meeting. I certainly did. And keep doing the good work, Mark. Thank you again.
Thanks. We'll talk to y'all soon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.